Well, we got 7 people in here. Let me know in the chat if y'all can hear me. The chat might be a little delayed. Oh, nice. Bubba Neal 11, Bad Bears, House Heisenberg, Mal Rogi, 101. Appreciate y'all being here. Is it a little dark? Keep up the good work. Thanks, man. No, it's been fun. I mean, it's been fun, doing this. I usually have a lot of time in the off season, and I usually spend it watching progressive shows and politics, working out, obviously. But it's been fun to do this. It's tough though. I will say, I did not know how difficult it would be to run all this cameras, microphones, computers. I didn't even have a laptop. I had to buy a laptop last year because I haven't used a laptop. In football we use like tablets, but we don't really need computers. But we'll be on the Katie Halper show at 5:30. So this is my first live stream, but I just wanted to make sure it worked and talk a little bit about um what's going on. Like, are y'all it's funny that this whole force the vote thing I feel like is coming back around because Bernie is kind of trying to force a vote on the minimum wage. Um but I mean this is it's frustrating because this is always was going to be, what it was going to take. I mean, how else do you think you're gonna take over a party? You know what I mean? It's not gonna happen. They are the system, they are the establishment. This is their game. So I I always think back to I was watching the Marianne Williamson interview with Pramila Jayapal, and she was saying how she was so happy to have a seat at the table. And if we have a seat at the table, then we can fight for good things and all the, which is all, fine and true, but you have to remember who's at the head of that table and who else occupies that whole table, right? Um, and so that's kind of what was frustrating is this is, a few months late. Can they turn it around? Sure. I mean, they can. I don't think they're gonna force a vote. After the Senate has their time for after the Senate has their debates and everything, this bill will go back to the House. So another leverage point, right? So we wasted the first one pretty much. I mean, and the thing that always got me about the PAYGO the PAYGO debate was, look, if they want to pass a bill, the establishment, if they want to pass a bill, do you think they're really going to let PAYGO get in the way of that? Of course not. Of course not. They're just going to waive PAYGO when they want something for them that they want to pass, right? But if it's AOC's bill or if it's Rashida Tlaib's bill, oh, PAYGO. What are we gonna do? It's PAYGO. We can't. How are you gonna pay for this, right? And so to me, that was always kind of a disingenuous argument, or maybe not necessarily disingenuous, but just misguided. Um, and it's like, well, PAYGO was instituted by Nancy Pelosi, so just getting narrow, even if you don't want to call it narrow, COVID PAYGO exemptions, even if you got that, that's still two steps back, one step forward. So is that all we're fighting for? Is that all we're leverage using these leverage points, right? We have a coalition in the House that can actually make a difference, a large enough coalition where they might need all of your votes to get this passed. Finally, isn't this what we fought for? Isn't this what we organized for? And, you know, we're not getting it didn't feel like at the time that we were getting enough back for that. And I was always one, hey, maybe we don't know everything that goes on in government, right? Maybe they do have a plan. Maybe. And And just as the time went on, I think everyone started to kind of see it a little bit more. And the thing about the organizing part was frustrating for me too, because are we going to devalue all the organizing that went into getting these programs to be popular, right? What about all that organizing? So it's we always have to organize more. Sure, you're never going to have 100%, agreement on something. That's why you organize. But when you get to a position where you have a majority, that organizing has then done its job because that majority is supposed to be reflected, right? That majority is supposed to be reflected in the legislation and in our representatives that, are supposed to be legislating for us for the things that we want. So let's not devalue all the organizing time, countless time spent by organizers who don't get a lot of credit. Let's not devalue all the work they've put in, up until this point. Yes, we can still organize, of course. We'll always do that, right? But when you get to a point where Medicare for all, eight or nine out of 10 Democrats want it, as opposed to 5 or 6 years ago, most, unless you were really, really in this fight, a lot of people didn't even know about Medicare for all, or it wasn't even on their radar. So, you're not gonna. I mean, 8, 9 out of 10 Democrats want a policy, and you can't even put it on the floor. No. And if you're not willing to, withhold your vote and actually stand up, you know, and take a stand, withhold your vote, and then, you're not really gonna get much. They'll virtue signal to you. Of course, they'll do that. And a lot of times, shoot, they might not even do that. They'll just outright come out like the thing with AOC's seat, right? With the committee seat. As soon as I saw that the head of that committee or whatever said that, pretty much purposely tanked her chances because she advocated for or she endorsed that same person's primary opponent. That's it right there. That's why you can't act like you can't play both sides of this issue, right? Either you're for primarying corporate Democrats and getting them out, or you are for working side by side with those same corporate Democrats. Because if you try and play the both sides game, what are you going to get? What are you going to get? You're going to get kicked off of committee seats. You're going to get, you know, I mean, they are adversarial and they recognize AOC and Rashida Tlaib and the squad as a whole, progressives in the House as a whole. They recognize them as an enemy, right? And so because they recognize them as an enemy, they treat them as such. They operate as such. I mean, it's just it really is politics 101, and it's frustrating. But I'm hoping that as a left, right, we can start to actually see that we need to kind of ramp it up with these elected representatives. We need to, because if they feel like they have your backing and your support, then they'll continue to operate the way they are operating. But if they feel like they're losing that support, maybe they'll start to change. What do you guys want us to talk about on the Katie Halper show tonight? I think we're mostly going to be talking about kind of this forced to vote part 2 potentially. I don't know. Katie Halper just put it together. I really like Katie Halper. I personally think Katie Halper is hilarious. Like, and her and Brianna Joy Gray they're just great together. I love watching their live streams. I'm really happy to be a part of this. I love being on Katie's show. It's so relaxed. I don't know. She does a really good job of making it like a very chill environment. Brie is my fave. $15 minimum wage. Yeah, Katie is funny as fuck. Yeah, I think so too. Have you managed to convince any of your teammates to support progressive policies? Would love to see some come on your show to discuss some of the stuff. I have. I mean, I tell this story a lot. But I have one teammate, he was a Trumper, and we were talking about the tax cut. because he was like, there were some this was a big thing in our locker room, actually. It's funny. When Biden at some point in the primary, or not the primary, Bernie had already dropped out. But this thing was going around is like, oh, Biden's gonna raise the taxes now in California. The taxes are gonna be like 60 something percent, all that type of stuff. I was like, first off, Joe Biden is not raising taxes on rich people. Like, he's not doing that. It's Joe Biden. But I was also like, he probably, I mean, he makes probably, I don't know, anywhere between 10 and 15 mil a year. And I was like, so, with the tax cut, with Trump's tax cut, like, how much did you get back on your taxes? And it was funny because he like hesitated and he was like, well, actually, yeah. And a few other my other teammates came into, they were like, yeah, actually, I pay more now because, they closed some of the loopholes. That some of people that aren't mega wealthy, but still wealthy, were taking advantage of. And I was like, so if your taxes went up, right? Do you think anyone below you's taxes went down? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just funny to kind of watch them because obviously I follow this very closely. And when I try and have these conversations, I try and bring in a lot of facts and I try and probe and ask them, their opinion on certain things because you got to be real. It's tough to have these conversations because you know you obviously know one side is demonstrably right and one side is demonstrably wrong, but you kind of have to give people the benefit of the doubt because a lot of people don't follow politics almost at all. But so that was kind of a moment with him that I had, where he kind of went quiet on that point. I had to concede that point. But I talk about universal healthcare a lot, and I've definitely got a few teammates to at least think about it. It's funny. One of my friends from college, um, I can't remember. This might have been my rookie year in the NFL, but we were just hanging out, and no, it had to be must have been before the primary kind of got really going. That was probably 2019. Um, and I was having a conversation with him, and he was one of those like, "Oh, Bernie, Bernie's a little too radical for me," type, and he was, a college student. So, when I was a college student, I actually remember in 2016 during the primary, uh, I remember hearing, the Bernie is too radical, Bernie socialist, all that type of stuff before I was kind of really in tune to politics. And I had this conversation with him, he was because I remember his sister was in debt and a lot of student debt, and she was like a nurse or something. And so I remember being like, well, your sister's is $400,000 or something like that in debt. She just wants to become a doctor. You think that's fair that, that she has all this debt just for wanting to help people? And I think that got him thinking. And then said how much we spent on the military. And he's, saying we can't afford all these other things. I was like, well, first off, universal healthcare, every other place in the world has, developed nation has one form or another, and they pay half as much and they cover everyone. And right, so it costs less on that end. And then if we want to talk about costs, are we talking about the military is like over half of our entire budget every year. And in the moment, he didn't change his mind, but he got back to me like it was like 7 or 8 months later, and he was like talking about Bernie and how much he loved Bernie and all this type of stuff. And I was like, what made you like last time we talked, you were saying this. And he was like, well, actually, that conversation that you had with me, it made me think. Right. And so you gotta just you just gotta know how to talk to people, I guess. And it might not happen immediately, but if you just can get people thinking, 54% of the budget goes to the Pentagon, right? And I'm sure it's more on top of that that we don't really know about. Solidarity with Amazon workers trying to unionize, especially in Alabama. Yeah, I mean, that would be huge. I was wondering why Jeff Bezos stepped down at that particular moment. And at the time, I was like, something must be about to go down with Amazon that he doesn't want to be a part of. So he's just gonna, take his money. And he's still obviously a part of it. He's on like the chairman or executive board or something like that. He's just not the CEO anymore. Did he vote for Biden? I honestly don't know. There's a the Biden thing, I did not vote for Biden. I simply can't. I mean, Joe Biden is more conservative than Hillary Clinton, right? So it's almost like all this, and it feels like we went backwards, right? Like that's what was frustrating. And if you know, like when you know everything about Joe Biden, it's just like it's hard to go out there and vote for him. It just is. I voted third party. And obviously in California, what does that mean? Not much. But why do I think they're delaying the next stimulus so hard? I genuinely I don't know. Like it's funny when you like think about it's like, oh, are they actually paid opposition? And it's like, no, no, they have good intentions, right? Or, at least some of them you'd think you'd gander that they have some type of good intentions. But how hard they're trying to lose, I, I don't know. I don't think they like being in power. I think they'd rather be just, fundraising and doing that jazz and complaining. I think Caitlin Johnstone had a tweet today that I loved. It was like the Democrats love like not being in power so that the Republicans so they can blame the Republicans as like the bad cop. And I was like, oh, that's just spot on. Like it's perfect for everything they need. Like they can act like they want to help people, but they don't actually have to do anything in practice and they could fundraise off of it. I'll make money. Hey, Justin, it's Sam from high school. Hope you're doing great. Have you had any awkward conversations with old friends from back home or high school who have very different beliefs? Wow, what's up, Sam? Holy, I have not talked to her for you in like 7 or 8 years, but I'm glad you watched the show. I hope you're doing well too. Um, any awkward conversations? It's weird because I think our generation is like we automatically kind of know the system. Like that's why I really like Gen Z because I think they're growing up in a very like progressive age. And millennials, we were like the end of millennials, right? I'm 96, millennium or millennial kind of ends at 96 or 97. But like I feel much closer to millennial than Gen Z, like culturized. Like I watch, cartoons growing up, like Cartoon Network and Disney and all that type of stuff. Um, but I feel like we as like, younger millennials, like we kind of get pulled from both sides. Like the older millennials, like went, through the financial crisis and Obama years and everything like that. And then Gen Z is kind of going through right now. We were kind of in the middle. So I think we generally we can be easily talked to, I think, and talked into progressivism or lefty politics. I don't think it's that hard for people our age, which is why obviously Bernie did so well with us. Biden Biden wrote the crack bill. Yeah, crime bill, basically. The Rave Act, yep. The crime bill and wrote the first iteration of the Patriot Act. Biden is repugnant. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to me how many excuses people make for Joe Biden given his legislative record. Like, I mean, the guy has been on the wrong side of almost every issue. And he really to me feels like the remnants of like those like, Southern Democrats, I guess, that end up becoming Republicans, like that ideology. But like he is like you know, he you hear it when he talks to like when he talked to the leaked audio call when he was talking to those black civil rights leaders. Like his tone, the way he's talking down to them, "Oh, I'm the president, I'm the party." Right? Like you shouldn't be upset. So, we have after a whole summer of BLM protests, we have black leaders sitting on this call saying, "Make sure you do stuff and you do it quickly." Right? We're asking you and they were asking for minor. I think the woman was asking for like it was like an executive order they could do for a database that would keep track of like police brutality cases and like complaints and all that stuff. And as soon as first off Biden goes, "You know what? First, let me respond. I got to go. I got to go." So he's already like, "Hold up. Let me just say this before I get the out of here." Right? So that's first disrespectful. Second, he's like, "You shouldn't be upset. I'm the one who was talking about uh Charlottesville when no one else was. No progressive was talking about it. What do you no progress everyone was talking about that. It's just I mean, his tone, you can tell, and that's what's the difference between him and Pete Buttigieg. When Pete Buttigieg gets around black people, he gets scared. He gets scared and he doesn't really know how to talk to them. But when Biden gets around, Biden's more comfortable around, I mean, too comfortable around black people, to the point where he's like talking down at them. So I don't know. I don't know why people can't see that. I mean, like this minimum wage thing is pissing me off so much because it's the easiest policy to support. Overwhelming majority of Americans support it. And like you're doubling people's wages. You know how many people you can talk to and be like, we're the party that gave you that doubled your wage. We're the party. So if you want to choose between us and the Republicans, we're the party that doubled your wage. I mean, you're just getting voters. Like that's all that is. When you give people stuff, like I know a lot of people that were talking like, "Oh, Trump, I don't know. He did give us that check." Like, and they're gonna give less than Trump, less than Donald Trump. They're gonna give the American people less than Donald Trump because they want to listen to Joe Manchin. I, I mean, if $15 is for a whole hour, you telling me I ca people working at McDonald's or I mean, we always say fast food, but I mean, it's like I think the stat was like 58% of all wage and salary earners earn the minimum wage. So, I mean, it's a bunch of different professions, but you're telling me they don't deserve a $20 bill for a whole hour's worth of work in 2021? That's no way. No way. So, we'll be they're all lying. Yep. Second nature to them. Yep. I appreciate y'all hopping on. I'm gonna What's up, Justin? Big fan of you on and off the field. Looking forward to seeing how Coach Staley does this year. And on another note, I want a stimulus check. Yeah, no, we have a new head coach this year. So I met him. He's really cool. Yeah, excited to get to work. And on another note, I want a stimulus check. Yeah. No, it's crazy. I think I gave out four $600 stimulus checks. And the United States government probably has a trillion times more capital than I have as, on a rookie contract. Trump did more for SBA loans that of small business owners. Biden has cut back fiscal assistance dramatically and did so within 1 month this year. Has it have we had a worst Democratic month at the beginning of a presidency? I don't know. And I I think I saw, and I need to be corrected if I'm wrong, but was the PPP loans for this bill like 70 billion or something grossly small? Like what are small businesses going to do? Because the CARES Act I think was originally 300 something or 400 something billion. Obviously a lot of that went to massive corporations because the Republicans didn't have any controls on that. But even still that was like not grossly not enough. So I mean, if there's not a lot of relief in this package for small businesses, I don't know how any of them are gonna survive. Like, can you imagine being a business? And this is why I love when people are like, because out here in California, I think they were, like, trying to recall Gavin Newsom or something, and it was mostly, like, small business owners and to me, I'm thinking small business owners should be in the Democratic Party. That's what's so crazy about it, is you're telling me someone that owns a small business is do you think they're closer to, someone working a 25 an hour job or Amazon? Like, who do you think they're closer to? You know what I mean? So the fact that they won't legislate to actually help small businesses. And then that's why they're like, well, if you're not going to help us at all, at least just keep our taxes low. Therefore, ergo, you have them being Republicans. Like, it's just, it's crazy. Yes. Hardlands Media got a channel strike preventing them from streaming. Yeah. So Hardlands Media, they had me on their show a while ago. They're great. Go subscribe to them. They're from Chicago. So I have a, you know, soft spot for my Chicagoans. Tom Brady GOAT got a PP loan turned into $1 million luxury boat. Yeah. Now, as football wise, yeah, you can't really argue that Tom Brady's probably the GOAT, but I'm sure we have a lot of differences off the field. I'm genuinely embarrassed to say I voted Biden because now people that voted third party can say I was dumb for expecting a $15 minimum wage they promised. It's really what I voted for. I think a lot of people voted for that. That's what was tough. I thought, minimum wage, they'll probably do that. Like that's not something that goes wildly against like their biggest donors. Like when you think about it, a lot of the big corporations like kind of already are doing 15. Like Amazon did it, I guess. McDonald's, Costco, Walmart's kind of doing it. So I figured that they do that, but of course I was wrong. And the $2,000 checks. I was grossly wrong about that. I remember telling people I was like, they'll probably do the checks. Like they won't do anything after that, but they'll probably do the checks. Yeah, like I'm learning too. I'm learning with y'all. Like I'm learning to never expect anything from the Democratic Party. I'm learning right along with y'all. So I'm gonna be on for about 2 more minutes, and then we'll definitely do more of this. I just wanted to figure out how this was and talk to you guys a little bit before I hop on Katie Halper show. So go check me out at the Katie Halper show, and yeah, let me keep hitting me up on. Y'all send me articles on Twitter and stuff. I read that, and sometimes I'll cover some of that stuff. And yeah, I might eventually end up doing something more like a podcast type long form conversation. I want to start having people on, the takeover show. But I also want to do something with live streaming too, or with podcasting. But that might not be for a little bit. I'm still figuring this out. All right. I appreciate all y'all being on. Go check me out on the Katie Halper show. Okay. And I'll probably stream maybe this weekend. We'll figure that out. And yeah, check me out on the Katie Halper show. Thank y'all for checking me out.